I 100% just set this up last week, and it basically fills out the same purpose, but it would give him the discretion to say, hey, we can't waive the fee, but go to these people and take what they do, and whether it's just, if it was us picking.
We'll go ahead and call the San Dimas City Council meeting to order. And we'll start off with the flag salute. If everyone will please stand, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and do the roll call. City Clerk.
Councilmember Nakano.
Present.
Councilmember Weber.
Here.
Councilmember Ebner.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Viana.
Here.
The record will reflect that 4 council members are in attendance. Mayor Bedar is absent.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Bedar is ill this evening, and although he's not here with us in person, I know he's watching, as he just called me and gave me a difficult time about my attire. So I am happy to hear he's with us. Love you, Emmett. At this point, I guess the city attorney, did you have something for this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Viana. I have a request tonight for the council to add a closed session agenda item to our list of closed session items tonight. This is an existing litigation item that action is needed on before the next council meeting, and the need for action arose after the posting of the agenda last Friday. So in order to add this item to the agenda tonight, it requires a vote of 3 out of the 4 of you. And this would be, the agenda item title would be Conference with Legal Counsel Existing Litigation, Government Code 54956.9 D1. Name of case is Agavni Terzian versus City of San Dimas, Los Angeles Superior Court, case number 20STCV10832. And I recommend that the council add this to the agenda tonight by a vote.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously to add this agenda item to our closed session.
Thank you.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Pro Tem, the motion was made by...
Councilmember Weber and a second by Councilmember Ebner.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is recognition. This week, we are recognizing Patriotism Week by the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks. Whereas the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, through its constitution, is a patriotic order and celebrates Patriotism Week, and whereas the order promotes the ideals that citizens of this nation live in freedom, won through the great sacrifices and many tribulations which have provided the foundation for a free, prosperous, and independent life. And whereas we recognize that each generation must work to maintain this freedom, otherwise, through carelessness or indifference, the rights and liberties enjoyed may vanish. And whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize this freedom and to honor the nation which provides it. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem Ryan A. Viana, Council Members John Ebner, Eric Nakano, and Eric Weber, hereby proclaim September 10th through 16th, 2023 as National Patriotism Week. During this event, we urge all citizens to join with the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks in expressing gratitude for the privilege of American citizenship with appropriate celebrations and observances. In their witness of, I, Mayor Pro Tem Ryan A. Viana, hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of San Dimas to be affixed this 12th day of September 2023. All right. Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and recognize oral communications. Members of the audience are invited to address the City Council on any item on this agenda or not on this agenda. Public comment will not be taken during each individual agenda item except for public hearing items. Comments on public hearing items will be heard when that item is scheduled for discussion. Under the provisions of the Brown Act, the legislative body is prohibited from engaging in discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda. However, your concerns may be referred to staff or set for discussion at a later date. Each speaker will be limited to speaking once for up to 3 minutes. City Clerk, do we have any speakers tonight?
First speaker will be Raymond Foster.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, members of City Council, city staff, and members of the audience. I am pretty involved. So, in 1976 was the bicentennial of our country. On July 4th, I found myself in the second week of boot camp. And they marched all of us, 900 of us in this recruit battalion, onto this blacktop pavement parade ground, which was appropriately called the Grinder. And in parade rest, we all watched fireworks. And about 5 minutes into this fireworks ceremony, a single voice began. And it spread like fire through these 900 recruits standing there in these files and ranks. And God Bless America filled the parade ground. For a very short period of time, when an angry drill instructor informed us that we did not have permission to sing and that we were misusing our government voices. I then watched the fireworks from the leaning rest position for the rest of the ceremony. But in 2026, we have the opportunity here in San Dimas to have kind of a redo. That is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And already in our city has been formed a committee of about 25 people so far from a variety of different organizations, from Masonic Lodge to the women's clubs to just general citizens, who have been meeting and forming ideas and planning. We've been meeting with city staff and meeting here in this building, and we're at the point where we need more volunteers. We need more people from the community to get involved and decide what our 4th of July is going to look like in 2026. Because if I had to do it over again, which apparently I do, it's not going to be from the leaning rest position on some cold parade ground. So I'd like to invite everyone here present and everyone who can hear the sound of my voice to send an email to sandimasrotary@gmail.com. That's sandimasrotary@gmail.com if you'd like to be a volunteer or get involved in the planning of 2026, the celebration of the city of San Dimas of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Sylvia Melendez.
Hi there, my name is Sylvia Melendez. I'm the CEO of the San Dimas Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to let people know about some upcoming events to put on your radar. So next week we have the Women in Business Connection. It's a great way for women to come together and support one another that are business owners. And so we invite everybody in the community to come and attend. Again, it's on Tuesday, September the 19th at 8:30. It's located at 433 South Cataract Avenue in San Dimas. The following day, we have a multi-chamber mixer at Haynes campus in Laverne, and it will incorporate 11 different chambers. It's a huge mixer. We invite everybody to come out. It'll be at 5 p.m. The following day, we have a ribbon cutting celebration in downtown San Dimas with House of Suds. So we invite everybody to come out and support a new local business at 10:30 a.m. And the following week, we have a networking luncheon at the Los Angeles Pacific University campus. The lunch will be sponsored by them, and it's free to attend. And the following day, we're going to have, along with the Rotary, we're going to have an additional mixer, and it will kick off the San Dimas food drive, and it will be at High Point Brewing at 5 p.m., and that's on Wednesday, September the 28th. And lastly, the week after that, we're going to be having the San Dimas Wine and Beer Walk. And if you don't know about the San Dimas Wine and Beer Walk, it's the annual Wine and Beer Walk event here in San Dimas. It is a fundraiser that assists the Chamber to continue its programming and work towards the organization's missions to foster and promote the growth of business and professional communities while enhancing the quality of life in San Dimas. We incorporate a fun event while inviting the community to visit the small businesses and nonprofits and experience all the local restaurants and businesses and connect with each other. As a result, we see an increase in foot traffic, awareness of the local businesses, and a positive perspective on what the city has to offer. So we invite the entire community, please come out and support on Saturday, October the 7th from 5 to 8 in downtown San Dimas. For more information, please reach out to the San Dimas Chamber of Commerce at 909-592-3818 or info@sandimaschamber.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Nora Chen.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members and manager and staff. My name is Nora Chen and I'm the manager of the San Dimas Library. Today, do you know that September is actually it's a library card signed up month? So since the school is back in session, so it's a perfect time for parents to bring their kids to the library and to sign up for a new library card. A library card can allow the people, not just kids, adults, to check out books and DVDs, magazines for free and access a lot of the databases and audiobooks and ebooks online. So in September, when you sign up a new library card, you will get a tote bag and with the pencil box inside. So, just let, if you already have one, just let your friends and relatives know. Go to the library, check out the books, you will get free goodies. And I will give some to the city council and to the staff here. So I will give to later. And later, right now, it's our annual bookmark contest. So we are calling for creative kids and teens from kindergarten to high school to celebrate books, reading, and art. And kids and the teens, they can download an entry form from our website or just visit our library to get entry forms. And right now that everybody knows that COVID cases is on the rise. And library partner with the Department of Public Health, then we still continue to offer the free testing kits. So sometimes we order a lot and they are gone in just 1 week. So before you come, it's better to give us a call, and when we see the low volume, we will continue to order them to serve the community. Thank you. So I will give that book. Thank you. That's what I have.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, those were all the speaker cards.
Okay. Is there any other members of the audience that would like to address the city council? Go ahead and come up to the microphone at this time. All right. Seeing no one. My wife is going to love this. All right. Thank you. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion unless a member of the city council requests a separate discussion. It's my understanding there may be someone who'd like to pull an item or two.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I had some questions related to some of the items on the consent calendar, specifically the rental agreement of the Walker House, as well as the pool agreement with the Bonita Unified School District. Just some questions for clarification, and hope to ask those at the appropriate time.
Okay, so then can we get a motion to approve all items except for 3 and 5, which will be taken in a separate motion?
So move.
Okay. A motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Okay, those items pass by unanimous vote, and we'll go ahead and take item number 3.
Thank you. I have my question for staff is related to the impact of changing the rental agreement. I wanted to see if staff could state for the record what the impact would be in terms of the people who had been renting rooms in the past, and what the volume looked like, And then what, although here it says there's no fiscal impact, I would imagine that if in fact people were renting rooms, we might see a decline in revenue, however small. So I wondered if staff could elaborate on that and clarify what the impact may be, as well as the impact to renters who had previously been renting and will no longer be able to rent those rooms.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Nakano. Scott Wasserman, Director of Parks and Recreation. That particular conference room, the city has multiple conference rooms that we're able to make available to the public. This particular conference room, the groups that rented it before would have access to other conference rooms if they requested. Conference rooms are located here in the senior center, meeting rooms rather. Here in the senior center we have a couple, and we're not anticipating any issue.
Got it. So they would just be
making
rerouted to a
available.
different set of conference rooms, and that's why there's no fiscal impact. Is that correct?
I'm sorry?
They would just be rerouted to different conference rooms that the city has, and that's why there's no fiscal impact. Is that
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Councilmember Nakano, the recommendation also includes directing staff to develop an administrative policy and procedure that would still allow for the use of that facility. It just didn't make sense when the original policy was passed. There was a lot more rooms that could have been rented,
Right.
but now the first floor has been rented and there's only one conference room.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Is that all on that item?
That's all that on that item.
Do we have a motion to approve consent calendar item number 3?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, that passes by unanimous vote. And item number 5.
The other question related to the rental agreement with Bonita Unified School District. In the background notes, it states that the rental fee increased to $160 from $140, but this amount, this hourly rate, is still well below the cost of the pool, and I wondered if you could state for the record what that cost would be, so we understand what the discount is to the Bonita Unified School District.
I don't have the cost at my fingertips, but we know that it's greater than $160 an hour. The whole facility is over $500,000 in deficit, and use of that pool at $160 an hour, it's pretty much in line with the cities around us for the same rental fee. And when I researched pool rental fees,
Sure.
they're really all over the map. So other fees for certain programs were all sort of together there. Swimming pool rental seems to be
Yeah.
all over the map.
I was just curious more what the cost discount would be. So it's my understanding that the cost is somewhere north of around $240. Is that my understanding, or is that did I misunderstand?
Back in 2021, when both Parks Director Scott Wasserman and I came on board, we did do a survey, and the ranges were all over the place on the high end of the hundreds and then into the 200s. However, when you look at the facility, its end of life, its low utilization, the fee study which you're going to implement on the 26th shows, I believe it's about $2,800. I think it's related to memberships for the 500 that are there, about the true cost based on the fees for that facility. It's very, very expensive. There is no real way to get full cost recovery for that facility, so we don't expect to charge Bonita Unified the true full cost recovery per unit.
Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
All right, do we have a motion to approve consent calendar item number 5?
I will move approval. Thank you.
A second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes by
Thank you,
unanimous
Council.
vote. We'll move on to other business. First item under other business, rejection of all bids for construction contract 2023-06 culvert repair under San Dimas Avenue. And I believe that's going to be Sherry, our Director of Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. The item before you tonight is a recommendation to reject all bids for construction contract 2023-06 culvert repair under San Dimas Avenue due to the high cost of the repair. Culvert's located under San Dimas Avenue, just east of Pudding Stone Drive.
For council, there's a presentation.
Oh, sorry. So it's also in your in the staff report. So, but so this culvert was built originally in 1969. It's about 400 foot long, 66-inch diameter corrugated metal pipe. Over the years, it's experienced some degradation due to scouring and corrosion. The repair process used in the construction bid is a methodology developed by the Federal Highway Administration from the Department of Transportation, the U.S. Department of Transportation. This is a publicly bid project, and the city clerk opened bids on August 15th and received 3 bids, the lowest of which was $587,000, approximately $587,000. Construction is only a portion of the project total. It includes construction, contingency, and an engineering allocation. Together, the total project budget for this project would have been $734,000, which is much higher than the original amount allocated for the repairs. Discussions with the city engineer, the project engineer, and several contractors indicates that there's several other methodologies available that would be more cost effective. So staff can perform some temporary repairs on the storm drain to get it through the next couple years while these alternative methodologies are developed, and the construction documents are developed for the new bid process. So with the likelihood of the more cost-effective repair methodologies, staff recommends that council reject all bids for construction contract 2023-06 culvert repairs under San Dimas Avenue. That concludes my presentation unless you have further questions.
Council, any questions?
One question, since the budget allocated was $200,000 and the lowest bid was nearly 3 times that, I was just curious if you could elaborate a bit on why the delta was so big between even the lowest bid and the cost estimate. What factors led to that being so large? It's a pretty big variance.
We discussed with the contractors that bid it why it was so expensive. There's a lot of labor involved in the repair methodology from the Department of Transportation. It's an older methodology, a lot of welding, a lot of unknown with the amount of degradation of the pipe. There was some clips that were called out that the contractor had that connected the rebar to the storm drain pipe that they couldn't find. They would have had to fabricate. They were no longer available. So that all contributed to the cost. Also, the project, the pipe is 30 feet below San Dimas Avenue, so it's a 1.5 to 1 slope where they would have to lug all the debris up and lug all the material down. So it was a lot of manpower was the reason.
And then if I may ask a follow-up question, do we expect the alternative methods to be closer to the $200,000 amount budgeted, or are we expecting even more than that, or even above that?
It will be higher, but
it'll higher than $200,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is what we expect, but it won't be $730,000.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else on council have any questions? Is there a motion or discussion?
I'll move that we reject all bids for construction contract 2023-06.
Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Is there anyone opposed? All right, motion carries by unanimous vote. Thank you, Sherry. Good job on that.
Thank you.
We'll move on to other business. Item number 2, review and discussion of the downtown area signage ordinance report. And that's going to be presented by Mr. Luis Torrico from Community Development.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Again, this is a report on the sign ordinance and how it relates to properties in the downtown area. Just to provide a little bit of background, the sign ordinance does apply and regulates all properties within the city. There's requirements within the sign ordinance that pertain to the type of signs that are allowed, the number of signs, size allowances, and illumination requirements. In addition to the sign ordinance, there are also sign programs, and multi-tenant properties like commercial shopping centers have these sign programs, and what these sign programs are intended to achieve is to provide a cohesive design throughout the center in terms of signage. So these sign programs can be more restrictive than the sign ordinance, but they cannot be less restrictive. So there's different criteria and requirements that go into regulating these signs that you have to follow either for the sign ordinance or the sign programs. For purposes of the sign ordinance, the downtown area is defined. The area on the northern border is 4th Avenue. On the south end is Arrow. On the east is Walnut, and on the west is Cataract. So all the properties within these boundaries are considered within the historic downtown area per the sign ordinance. And the types of signs that are allowed within the downtown historic area consist of window signs, canopy signs, icon or projecting signs in lieu of a wall sign, a primary wall sign, secondary wall signs. Up to 2 secondary wall signs are allowed as long as they face a parking lot. And we also allow portable signs and monument signs for commercial buildings which have the 0 setback from the public right-of-way. So there are different types of signages that are allowed within the historic downtown area. The way it's written, so it does allow for a variety of signs within the historic downtown area, including secondary signs on the rear elevation of buildings on the south side of Bonita, which will provide exposure when the train comes to town. So I believe there were some questions or concerns, some of the business owners in regards to what type of signage they can have and whether or not they can have more exposure to take advantage of when the train comes to town. So the way that the current code is written, it does allow for secondary signs to be placed on the rear elevations of those buildings, including Pizzettos and other ones on the south side of the elevation of Bonita. Some properties within the historic downtown area are regulated by a sign program. For example, Grove Station, which is located on San Dimas Avenue, south of the railroad tracks, they have a sign program that's more restrictive than the sign ordinance. So, for example, the businesses there could only have a wall on the front of the unit. So there is one particular unit on the north end of the development that faces the railroad tracks, which have inquired of city staff if they can have a secondary sign. The answer is yes and no. The sign code does allow it, but because the sign program is more restrictive, they would have to do an amendment to the sign program to allow that secondary sign, thus giving them additional exposure when the train comes in. So again, as previously mentioned, we do have a variety of standards that allow for variety and flexibility when it comes to signage. And we hope that these businesses take advantage of that, and they can always come to talk to the city planning division if they have additional questions. That concludes staff's report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council of staff?
I have one. Luis, as you know, the question about this came because there was a sense from businesses in the downtown area that they couldn't have these signs when in fact the rules say that they can. Do you know why they were under that impression that the rules were more restrictive than the actual code says?
I honestly don't understand where that confusion came from. The current sign ordinance has been in place since 2012, okay, and those allowances have always been in place. I know that we had some questions from a business owner, I believe it was Pizzettos, that inquired about having a secondary sign and actually came into the planning department and wanted to do a code amendment. We explained to the applicant that there was no code amendment required because the current sign ordinance does allow for the secondary sign. Right. And furthermore, when we approved the sign they have in place right now, I believe maybe about 3-4 years ago, we actually provided the criteria for the secondary signage. So the code does allow for the secondary signage, but it's smaller than the primary sign, but we do allow for it. So I don't understand where the confusion comes from.
And was there a request that the sign be the same size as the primary sign? Is that why they were perhaps confused, or were they fine with the smaller size?
Not to my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I know this particular item is always one that seems to make the highlight reel every few years, so I'm sure we'll talk about it again at some point in the next 2-3 years. But I do appreciate it. I know having chatted with the mayor a little bit about this, that there were some downtown businesses that were concerned. And I think, I know speaking for the mayor and the discussions we've had, that it's important that we do in fact work to be able to give them the best opportunity for visibility, especially as we have a lot of very fluid development occurring down along that particular corridor. But I am curious about Grove Station and some of the unique situations there. And I know for some time, Dr. Hoyt, council member Ebner's and I's dentist, has a signage issue that he's long time battled with on that window And I know, I think flexibility to support even that area, would go a long ways with that. So.
When you're having work done on your teeth, it's hard to have a discussion.
If he gets it in, I don't know.
Dr. Hoyt will tell you about what he wants.
Yes, he is, yeah. Well taken, well made. All right, thank you so much. This is a receive and file, no action from the council. Appreciate your report.
Thank you.
All right, next order of business, authorization of the Proposition 218 process for the proposed 2024 solid waste rates and budget appropriation in the amount of $15,000 for printing and postage costs. The notes say call on Lauren Marshall. Hi, Lauren Marshall from Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. My name is Lauren Marshall, Senior Management Analyst for the Public Works Department. Tonight, staff is bringing forward a request for setting a public hearing date for the Waste Management 2024 proposed rate adjustment. The proposed 2024 rate per the franchise agreement between Waste Management and the City of San Dimas is based on two components. One, the service component, or the ratio of the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, and two, the disposal component based on landfill and disposal costs. The CPI information was obtained from the United States Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. The disposal component is based upon the actual increase in disposal costs for each of the disposal or transfer facilities used and weighted based upon the percentage of waste disposed at each landfill facility monthly. The requested rate increase for the residential and commercial bin services is 4.7% for 2024. If approved, it would take effect January 1st, 2024. To validate both the residential and commercial rate adjustments proposed, the city contracted HF&H to conduct an analysis of the contractual compliance of the calculations, the mathematical accuracy of the calculations, and a comparison to industry benchmarks in other similar jurisdictions. HF&H concluded the calculations were conducted in accordance with the agreement and were mathematically accurate. In addition, HF&H and staff research indicates the rate proposal has been negotiated to be reflective of Waste Management's costs of providing their service and proportional as between different ratepayer categories per Prop 218. If council approves the proposed rate increase, the standard residential curbside collection cost for the standard service, which is a 64-gallon bin, would increase from $36.50 to $38.22 per month in 2024. Also included on this slide are the rates for the senior discount. The proposed price adjustment for the standard 64-gallon carts is a $1.22 increase. I would like to mention at this point in the presentation, as I do every year, if you are 65 and older and have residential cart service in the City of San Dimas, please, please, please contact a staff member in the Public Works Department or Waste Management to sign up for that senior discount. There are many more options for the multifamily, commercial, and industrial bin sizes and the number of weekly bin pickups. But as an example, for the 3-yard bin collected once per week, the monthly bill would increase from the base rate of $210.75 per month to $220.66 per month in 2024. All of these rates are detailed in the agenda report attachments, and the proposed rate adjustment percentage of 4.7%, as previously described, applies to all properties, ratepayers for residential and commercial customers citywide. I wanted to also bring to the council's attention that, and you may recall this from last year, the organic waste is now the most expensive to process. I know it's everyone's favorite subject. It was $7, so for any additional organics cart beyond the one that's provided as part of the standard service, last year it was increased to $7 per month, and it was staggered, meant to go up another $7 this year. So it's going up to $14 for an additional organics cart per cart if the proposed rates take effect. So it's $14 a month. The residential contamination fee that was adopted last year will remain the same. I do want to mention, though, while the fee will remain the same, this is important not just for meeting CalRecycle's 1383 requirements that the city enforce and educate, but it also pays for the equipment on the trucks, the personnel to monitor the video footage on the trucks, and then we also provide education if we have to send those letters out. I will note though, I found out this afternoon from Waste Management, we are still in the warning phase. Nobody has been assessed residential contamination fees at this point. So very good news. Tonight, staff is asking council to allow the initiation of the 218 process. Proposition 218 requires that the city provide all properties receiving service for which the fee is charged, in this case solid waste disposal rates, with a minimum of 45-day written notice prior to the city council holding a public hearing on the proposed rate increase. Which means if council approves the process going forward tonight, a notice will be mailed to all owners and occupants of properties in the city that in 45 days, or November 14th, here on the screen, 2023, a public hearing will take place regarding the proposed solid waste rates for 2024. During this period, the public has 45 days to contest this rate. This must be done in writing, and only one protest per property may be counted. There are 11,031 unique parcels in the city of San Dimas, which means for a protest to take effect, 50% plus one must protest that in writing and be received by the city. That would be about 5,516 properties would have to protest. If 50% of the properties plus one do not protest, at the conclusion of the public hearing, a vote of the City Council would take place to adopt the proposed 2024 solid waste rate adjustment, which would take effect again January 1st, 2024, also on the screen. Additionally, the cost to administer the Prop 218 process will require a general fund appropriation of $15,000. These costs include printing and postage of the public notice to all ratepayers, parcel owners and occupants, as well as costs related to publishing the notice for a public hearing twice in the Inland Valley Daily Bulletin during the 45-day Proposition 218 noticing period. Second part, Prop 218 also allows for an annual inflationary increase without requiring the full mailing, notification, and majority protest process. While a public hearing is required to set the rates, a maximum annual inflationary schedule can be applied to these rates without triggering the full Prop 218 process. So what does that mean? Council may adopt a maximum rate formula for such annual adjustments pursuant, and I have to say this really fun section of the government code, section 53756 of the government code. However, such an applied schedule cannot be applied for a period exceeding 5 years. So in this case, we would be talking about January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2029. Let's see. After the 5-year period, any further rate adjustment must go through the full Prop 218 process. Further, should any overall increase in any year exceed 5%, a further public hearing and Prop 218 notice and protest process will be held before the City Council. To meet all of these requirements, in addition to the proposed rate increase for 2024, the Council is being asked to consider authorizing a maximum annual adjustment over a 5-year period that shall not exceed 5% annually. So furthermore, Waste Management will continue to provide notice of the annual rate adjustment to all solid waste customers at least 30 days prior to the effective date of January 1st each year, which has historically been what has taken place. Should the Council choose to accept the 5-year automatic adjustment methodology, the City will save $60,000, so $15,000 times 4 years, by avoiding having to do a Prop 218 mailing for subsequent years 2 through 5. If approved, for public transparency purposes, staff will continue to bring the annual rate adjustment to the City Council for review each year. So in conclusion, the city staff is recommending that the City Council authorize staff to initiate the Prop 218 process to adjust rates for solid waste, organics, and recycling services by sending the proposed public notice to the City Attorney's Office for any revisions substantially consistent with the form in Attachment 3 and final approval, and set a public hearing on November 14th, 2023 for the City Council's consideration of the proposed rate schedule and 5-year adjustment methodology. And finally, appropriate $15,000 from the general fund for printing and postage to all city ratepayers. This concludes my presentation, and not only am I available to answer any questions you may have, but the city's waste management public sector representatives, Lily Corolla and Josh Goldman, are also here to assist if I can answer those questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Council questions?
I did have one question. It doesn't necessarily pertain directly to the rate increase, but to the contamination fee. While we aren't finding anybody yet because we're in the warning phase, are we still sending out notices to people to let them know whether they're in compliance or not?
Take that, Josh. This is Josh Goldman.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager, City Attorney. So the way that it works is if we pick up a load that's deemed to be contaminated, the smart truck camera will flag it. That goes to a human being who inspects it. If it looks like it's contaminated more than 10% of the load, it's considered contaminated. At that point, they will receive a notice.
Okay.
And so the notice will explain what happened. I'll have a picture of it, best practices, things like that. After the third one, then they would get a fee.
Okay, sounds good. I was just wondering if people are unknowingly contaminating these loads of garbage and just have no idea. So I appreciate it.
Sometimes, yeah, that's usually what it is.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Follow-up question to that. What is the estimated contamination rate as of right now?
You know, I don't have an exact rate, but I will tell you for residential, they gave me the information on residential contamination earlier today, and there were quite a few more residential contamination fees monthly until we sent out that notice saying that the enforcement was about to start. So we've only had 3 since July, and I find that very impressive. It was 3, I'm sorry, it's 3 for the whole year.
Great.
So we're doing really well.
I had a question regarding the fees with notification. Is there ever an option, as these fees continue to increase year over year, where we'd be able to notify residents electronically and help bring that down, or is it required that they always have to be printed and mailed?
You know, there is an option to do that. We put everything on our website. The Prop 218 notice is also on our website, not just through the paper and not just through a mailing. But we find that we reach absolutely everybody if we print it and send it. Email is always an option, but we don't always have that. We don't always have that information.
I see. So there wouldn't be an option to do kind of a hybrid where we have emails for contact them, and that would reduce the cost of printing and postage in the future?
We would certainly look into that where we could.
Great.
Absolutely.
And Lauren, just to clarify so I understand what you guys are requesting. So you are requesting, pursuant to that government code section, that council essentially has the public hearing, but to adopt the 5-year automatic CPI increase. That's what you're looking
Unless it hits 5% or more.
Okay.
It would have to exceed that 5%.
So it's
Because the idea there is that Waste Management could ask for an increase more than 5% if their
There is the
methodology.
potential. If there's additional legislation that comes out of the state that says you have to do something else with solid waste that we haven't accounted for budget-wise, and what would end up happening is we would have to assess that fee, and that's the only time I've seen it exceed the 5% since I've been doing this.
Can I just interject just for a moment, just so that I'm clear on as to what you're asking? The rate increase will go to council for approval every time. So it's not an automatic rate increase.
right,
It's
but
just when it
but-
exceeds 5%, it'll go
into the full notice.
right, but for what you guys are requesting right now, I understand annually it'll come back, but the authority to deal with 218 is basically what we're going to do right now, and then if passed, then for the next 5 years, unless it exceeds 5%, we're just going to get an annual reminder that this is occurring.
Council will always have to approve the rate adjustment.
Okay. So
Yes.
we will have the authority then through this to do that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Where does this saying garbage in, garbage out come from? Because I think this is garbage in, money out, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
I don't know where it'll, I'm gonna have to look into that anyways. All right, Computer. Yeah. All right, any discussion or a motion from council?
I'll move that we adopt the staff's recommendation as stated by Lauren and as displayed on the screen.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries by unanimous vote, and we'll move on to our next item. Thank you, Lauren. Oral communications, member of the audience are invited to come address the council. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any takers? Anyone? Bueller? Okay. Very well. We'll move on to the next item. That's going to be city reports. We'll start with the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Yesterday, the city had the pleasure of hosting the new president of Mount Sac Community College, Dr. Marta Garcia, at the Walker House with her executive team and 2 members of the Board of Trustees representing the city of San Dimas. Mount Sac is the largest single college district in the state, made up of 72 community college districts. It has approximately 60,000 students and has a large following of our students and is a big feeder of the local CSUs here in our area. We look forward to strengthening our partnership with the college to provide more programming at the Senior Center and other facilities in San Dimas for our San Dimas residents. We currently provide some limited programming out of the Senior Center, and the hope as we build this relationship would be that we would expand that programming not only at the Senior Center but other facilities and in more locations within our city to provide better access to our residents instead of having to go far down to Walnut to the actual institution. We are also soon going to be welcoming a new restaurant to our community. Nick the Greek, a popular Euro and souvlaki fast casual restaurant, will be opening at 1045 West Arrow Highway in the Smart and Final TJ Maxx Shopping Center. They will occupy the space formerly occupied by Subway at the west end of the center. Subway moved to another unit within that center. Nick the Greek began their tenant improvements in July, so they're well on their way. We don't have an actual opening date, but as soon as we get that, we'll be able to publish it. And no, just because I love Greek food wasn't that we recruited them here. They found our community to be one in need of additional restaurants, which is aligned with the community survey that indicated additional restaurants is a high priority for the community. The city currently is in its 5th year of a master law enforcement agreement with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Every year prior to the end of that contract, a small group of city managers and staff get together to renegotiate the contract with the county. I've been fortunately selected to be one of those members that are renegotiating that contract, and we're deep into that negotiations with the hope of concluding it by the end of December. We're asking for additional requirements with regards to performance and liability, and so it remains to be seen what that final agreement will look like, but I fully entail that we will be entering into another 5-year agreement with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and we're very satisfied with the level of service that they've provided to our community. And as we will report at the next Public Safety Committee, we'll have seen a reduction of about 8% in crime for this period of this year compared to last year, so we look forward to that report. In terms of the Gold Line, we will see a closure at the Eastone Gladstone Street driveway of the Costco Shopping Center from September 18th through the 25th. As part of the Foothill Gold Line Light Rail project, crews will be rebuilding the Gladstone Shopping Center's eastern driveway on Gladstone. This is the driveway closest to the rail line on the far east side of the Costco Shopping Center. The driveway will be closed to all traffic and pedestrians to demolish and rebuild the driveway. Access to the shopping center will continue to be available from Gladstone's western driveway, as well as the 2 other entrances on Lone Hill south of Gladstone. So access to residential and business areas will always be maintained during the course of that closure for that 7 days. My last comment relates to additional work that's being done on San Dimas Avenue by the Gold Line between Arrow Highway and the rail line. You will notice our formerly city-owned park and ride is currently being reconstructed, as well as an entry point off of Commercial. And so the Gold Line is expected to continue this construction work with an expected conclusion date of mid-October to late October. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chris. And I will just share with you that I heard from a member of the Sheriff's Department that you're doing. They wished they lived in the city that has you as their manager related to
fighting for what residents need from their law enforcement agencies. So it's coming from this person. I think that's a good compliment. And so thank you for everything you're doing to look out for the citizenry and work collaboratively with our sheriff's station. City Attorney.
Mayor Pro Tem, pursuant to the Brown Act, I do need to make a statement about one of our significant exposure to litigation closed session items tonight. One of those items is related to a letter dated August 15th, 2023 from the BKK Working Group, and it regards potential litigation regarding the cleanup of the BKK landfill in West Covina. That's just one of our significant exposure to litigation items tonight, and that's all the reports I have.
Thank you. Okay, members of the City Council, do we have any reports on meetings attended at the expense of the local agency? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to council member requests for future items, comments, and updates, and we'll start with Council Member Nakano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. One item I'd like to add to the agenda for next meeting is the ability for city staff, and particularly the city manager, to have the discretion when it comes to city events to waive or reduce fees. So, for example, a number of events that the city have or programming, such as a 5K, in some cases are residents or other people who want to participate who may not be able to afford that rate. Providing the city manager or staff with the ability to reduce that rate or come up with some sort of an accommodation to ensure that all residents have access is something that I think is worthy of discussion. Those options could include something like setting aside a total budget every year in which he could draw down from that. It could include a list of criteria that residents or groups need to meet in order to get access to reduced or discounted or waived funding or fees. Or it could include something like discretion to waive fees provided it's under a certain dollar amount or something like that. So my request would be that staff provide recommendations or options for City Council to discuss at our next meeting that would carry forward on any type of programming. So that way we're not in a situation where if somebody wants to participate, say it's a week out, there's no mechanism to resolve that. So that would be the item I'd request.
Well, I would, just in the spirit of always supporting somebody's request to put something on the agenda, I would support that request. Does it need to be at our next meeting, or can staff have some leeway on that?
The only thing I would say is that meeting would be the meeting prior to the 5K. So if there were any instances where people wanted to participate, couldn't afford the $20 fee, they could then have the authority to make any accommodation based upon whatever we decide.
Yeah, well, I'm good with having the discussion. Yeah.
All right. So I guess at the next meeting, we're agendizing this item for the purposes of discussion, and then council will actually have the discussion about, it sounds like, the gist of what he's stated, and then we'll go from there with some direction or decision.
It sounds like we're going to bypass whether we want to actually agendize the formal action given the timing of this. So unless there's an opposition to the council, we can prepare that staff
I'm not
report.
confident that I would support the outcome. I think it's a much broader policy discussion. So I think a discussion is probably appropriate, but as we've done with other items like this.
So what I'm understanding, possibly Eric and Ryan and Chris, is that there could be some broad parameters that maybe you could suggest, and those could be brought forward. And I don't know if we need a really detailed staff report, but at least a little bit of reaction in a report or of staff to what you're proposing, so we can have some kind of meaningful discussion. Because there has to be some, to do that. To Ryan's point, it is quick. That's the reason I asked. And so
if the request is just exclusively to delegate authority to Chris to be able to waive fees, if that's all it is, then that's a very simple discussion. If it's a broader discussion about appropriation of funding, there's significant policy implications that I'm not willing to support.
That's it, except given that people may have different feelings about what that authority could be. It could be, say, setting aside $1,000 and he has the authority to waive up until that amount for the full year, or whatever amount we come up with.
Right, so
we
it's
could
more
come
than
up
one
with.
event, right?
That's right. So it's not unlimited, basically, right? So it is what you said, but I know that some members may have concerns about a blanket policy that could be limitless. And so that's why I said, well, perhaps there should be options available that could set parameters. It could be a list of criteria saying a certain groups, nonprofit or whatever, then he could waive fees. It could be a dollar amount, or it could be you can waive up, to, I don't know, 50% or something like that. So it is that basically, Ryan. However, I want to just give people options in terms of how that may be implemented. If that makes sense.
So I was just having a conversation with the Parks Director and the City Attorney. I think if we simplify that temporarily, there is some broader implications depending on how we want to implement it. If it's not defined correctly, then I can imagine a developer asking for a discount on a fee, and that authority would be delegated, and there would be nothing restricting me from providing said discount.
Yeah.
But I'll work with the Parks Director to see what we can actually bring forth that's simplified for the next meeting, so the council has the ability to take some kind of action, and then you can define additional parameters and future discussion that can further restrict the conversation and the delegation of authority that you provide me.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it might not be more expeditious, although I don't know whether it would be an option anyways, is to appropriate monies out of the council's discretionary budget to tackle what he's looking to do just for, well, it's a discussion we can have next week.
Okay.
Or next meeting.
We'll bring some sort of action item that narrows the discussion for the next meeting.
Great, thank you.
Anything else?
That's all. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, very good. Councilmember Ebner.
All right. Well, I don't expect a lot of discussion about this tonight, but I did want to say that during my closing comments tonight, and in meetings to come, I hope to bring something every week. I'd like to talk about one or two issues or policies that I believe deserve our attention. And they're not intended to be direction to staff. Since they're not on the agenda, I don't expect discussion. I won't usually be asking for something to be agendized, although tonight I've got one that I will, and every now and then there will be. The intent is simply to raise certain issues that I think are important and suggest some ideas. So the first one for tonight is cycling improvements. I just wanted to share some thoughts on this. San Dimas has some bike lanes, and they're well used by cyclists. I would say that in general, we need to do more for the cycling community, mainly to make it safer to ride a bicycle. Two areas that come to mind right now, sort of to kind of confine it to certain areas, are downtown on Bonita, and also at all the new Gold Line, or A Line as it's called, crossings. Since I live down near the downtown area here, or in the downtown area, I'll often see cyclists using Bonita as a through street to get from one side of downtown to the other, specifically from Iglesia to Cataract or the other way. They ride in the traffic lane, and they have every right to do that, of course, but it is a bit dicey, and when I'm behind them, it's hard to get around them sometimes because to leave them the safe space. So I'll slow down as you're really supposed to do, and let them continue on in front of you. The other thing is that, I don't know about you, but I've seen cyclists navigate what I like to call the slot. The slot is right on San Dimas Avenue, south of Bonita, right by the tire store, to the railroad tracks. And it's so skinny that, and it's made skinnier by the Gold Line's construction there, that cyclists are really taking their lives in their hands if they take that route, and yet they do. And some are probably more confident than others. I've heard from cyclists who have the same experience basically at all the new Gold Line or A Line crossings. So an effective solution to this, in my opinion, is to improve the traffic markings in these areas. Drivers and cyclists both need to know and be reminded that the road is intended to be shared where there's not room for the cyclists to have an area to the side where they can ride safely. So it would improve safety for everyone if we painted sharrows on the street and we did them in the green and white standard colors that are being used in lots of places, most places nowadays, for those kind of markings. And of course, signs would be a bonus. This would start sending a message that cycling is encouraged in the city and that we are paying attention to the thousands of cyclists who bike through San Dimas every year. So that is something that, and again, I'm not asking for that to be on an agenda. If anybody wants to suggest it at some point, that's great, staff or fellow council members. But that is something that I think deserves our attention. The second thing regards homelessness. We have a contract, as you know, with LA CATA to reach out to the homeless in San Dimas. And they're doing a pretty good job. They spend 3 days a week on our dime, or our $200,000 a year, to reach out and talk to people who are homeless and try to provide them one thing or another that's going to help them, including getting them off the street. We have another day, thanks to a contract we signed with, not a contract, that the COG, San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, provides one day for us as well. So this is something that I would need somebody else on the council's support. I would like to have a regular status update from LA CATA, maybe every quarter, and have them come and make a presentation and give us a rundown, some statistics, something we can look at, and see what all they've been doing, so that we know what kind of good work they've been doing. So that's a request I would have, to ask them to ask us to agendize that every 3 months.
I would support that.
All right. I would suggest and hope we could have our first report in October. And that's it for me. Yeah, the quarters, maybe they might be in January, or maybe they could even give us the whole year, for example, in addition to the quarter. January, April, July, and October might be good quarters to do it in.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Ebner and Nakano. I think it's a good report, and I too would be interested in an annual report in addition to the quarterly, as he outlined. So.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Weber.
I've got nothing tonight.
Oh,
thank you.
All right. Okay, just a couple things. One is I wanted to acknowledge yesterday was September 11th, and it was Patriots Day. I know a lot of people were impacted by that, and I just want to remember everyone who was impacted by that event. I had the opportunity in my day job to go and participate in a parade with the early Rodders and drive around in a police vehicle to raise awareness with firefighters and law enforcement officers in front of 2,000 kids between all the different schools, elementary schools, high schools. And some people today will only learn of this event by the memory that's kept alive by people telling the story. And so it's just really important that we never forget what happened on that day. And so many people were impacted so many different ways from what happened. So there's that. I also attended the event that the city put on with the president from Mount Sac. I think that was a very good event. It demonstrated a long-standing history that we've had with Mount Sac that provides good quality programming for the enrichment of our seniors and partners with our Bonita Unified School District to be able to provide a lot of different type of educational opportunities for our youth. So I hope to continue to look forward to that partnership between the Mount San Antonio College, or Mount Sac, as well as the city and Bonita Unified School District, who has been a huge proponent of their career technical education courses that really is something that's in need all over the place for people to get into those jobs. So with that, I know myself, Council Member Weber, and the city manager will be going to Sacramento next week for the League of California Cities Conference. Those things are always fascinating to be able to stay up to date on things that are going on, not just impacting us here in San Dimas, but regionally and throughout the state. So this conference is always very educational, provides a lot of different perspectives on a lot of different things. And the city of San Dimas is a member of the League of California Cities that does a lot of advocacy that benefits not just us here in the city, but local government throughout the state. So with that, we'll go ahead and look to adjourn this meeting. We have a closed session, or three closed sessions, I think, 4 closed sessions, I think, at the conclusion of this. So we'll be going to closed session to discuss 4 items on the agenda, which is a conference with legal counsel regarding litigation. The 4th item was added to the closed session agenda tonight as an item requiring direction and coming to the city's attention subsequent to the posting of the published agenda. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and the city attorney will come back when the lights are off to announce we are done. And wishing everybody a good night and a good week. Oh, and one last thing, it is Suicide Prevention Week and month, so that's a very important topic. And 988 is a great resource that's out there for so many people to be able to get resources. But there's a lot of people struggling with suicide and suicidal thoughts. Well, I guess they're not struggling with suicide if they committed suicide. So let's do our part to be able to stop people or help people who are struggling with mental health issues and get them the help and service they need. But 988 is a great resource, and so are there so many resources from the LA County Department of Mental Health and all the other folks we have in the community. So let's raise awareness to that. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting to our closed sessions. We'll recess for 10 minutes. And are we moving? We are moving to the other side. Okay, very well. Thank you.